bookish Friday video, or in matter of fact, it's actually a bookish Saturday video, because my life has gone from 0 to 100 in a matter of weeks, and it got to Thursday evening and I was kind of like, it's Friday tomorrow and I'm supposed to have a video go up, and I haven't even filmed it yet, and I don't have time to film it. And Friday I was too busy to film, so I've had to film, edit, and I will be posting this video all on the same day. So hectic, but things are positive in my life at the moment. They're going really well, so I can't complain, but let's just get on with it. This is my September wrap-up, which is where I talk about all the books that I read throughout the month of September. I don't know if I'm still in a reading slump or if it's just because my life has got so busy in the last couple of weeks that I just don't have time to sit and read like I used to. Earlier in the year, you know, with lockdown and everything going on, I could spend hours a day just sat reading, but as some of you know, I have been trying to get more active, trying to lose weight, trying to get things moving, and I just don't have time anymore. I don't have time to sit down for hours on end and read hundreds of pages of books. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's a slump anymore versus I just don't have time to read anymore. So I'm saying that, let's go into the reading stats. So I read a grand total of 13 books in September, which is a lot lower than my average, which is normally about 16 to 18 books. So again, I didn't read a lot this in the month of September. It's starting to be negatively impacting my Goodreads reading goal, which I set at 196 books for the year. An odd number, but let's go with it. I'm now about 2 or 3 books behind schedule, but that's okay. As long as I don't get too far behind, I can always read a couple of graphic novels, get myself back up again. So I'm not too concerned at this moment in time. But yeah, if we keep falling behind, I'm going to really start to struggle very soon. But 13 books. Out of those 13 books, the audio hours that I listened to was 11 hours and 6 minutes, and the page count of the physical books I read was 3,628 pages. Now, in regards to star ratings, we had no 1 or 2 star ratings, which is really good. We had 4 3-star ratings, 4 4-star ratings, and 5 5-star ratings. So we had a really good month of reading. That's why I say I don't think it's a slump so much as just not having the time. Looking at the formats of books that I read 1 ebook. Yeah, I did. I'm getting those ebooks in. I listened to 2 audiobooks, and I read 10 physical books. The bindings of the physical books that I read, 3 were hardbacks and 7 were paperbacks. The authors, 4 were male and 9 were female. And the origin of the books that I read, 3 were borrowed and 10 were owned. The genres of the books that I read 2 thrillers. I read 2 thrillers in September. I read no contemporaries. I read 1 classic, 2 mangas graphic novels, 3 middle grades, 1 non-fiction, and 4 fantasy. So I had a lot of mixture in with my books in the month of September. They weren't all fantasies, which I'm trying to veer away from. The majority of my books are fantasies, but I'm trying to mix it up and read a bit more of every genre rather than just all fantasies all the time. So I did take part in Becca's Bookoplothon, and I had 6 books that I read for that. I can tell you that I did complete my Becca's Bookoplothon. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Becca's Bookoplothon. I did complete all 6 books, so I am really, really pleased with that. So let me go through with you what I read for it. So my first roll was actually a double, and I landed on Community Shelf, which was to pick from the cards, and it told me to read a mermaid book. For that I read Don't Tell Him I'm a Mermaid by Laura Kirkpatrick. This is a middle grade, and this is the second book in her series. This was really cool because this was where the young girl, she discovers a few other mermaids. Like, we get more of a delve into the mermaid world in this book. In the first book, she discovers on her 13th birthday, I think it is, that she is a mermaid, and she has to try and balance that alongside working in her mum's fish and chip shop, and also going to school and being a teenager and having enemies and friends and things like that. And this one was really, really sweet because there was a budding romance which I thought was absolutely adorable, and I hope that it continues in the next one. I don't know if she is continuing with this series. I haven't heard anything about it, but I absolutely adored this. It was so sweet and so wonderful. I did give this one, let me have a look. I gave it a 5 stars. Yes, I did. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a cute mermaid story. Yeah, it was just, we got more of the mermaid story in this rather than that she's at school kind of thing. So yeah, I really, really did enjoy this. The next role I did was to read a light cover, and for that I went with Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and I can tell you now, this was like admiring a beautiful painting. Like, I always heard that Laini Taylor's descriptive writing was beautiful and lyrical, and she's sort of discussed along the same lines as Erin Morgenstern with her beautiful, whimsical, magical writing and such. And I have to say I completely agree. Like, I felt like I was just being described the most beautiful painting I've ever seen in my life. It was just, her descriptions and her world building and her character building was just so wonderful. Here we have a story of a man called Laszlo Strange, who was found as an orphan after a war, and he's always been obsessed with the lost city of Weep. Weep is not its original name, but it's the name that he has given it, and nobody kind of knows what happened to this place. Nobody really thinks about it anymore apart from him, and he now is living in a kind of like a library, university kind of place. These warriors come along and they are looking for people to help solve the problem of Weep, and Laszlo manages to get himself on this expedition, and yeah, the story goes from there. And we also get the perspective of another character, I forget her name, Sarai? Yeah, Sarai, I think is her name, and she is a very, very interesting character. I looked up some of the fan art for Strange the Dreamer just to get a bit more of an insight into what these characters look like almost, even though the descriptions in here were beautiful. I just couldn't, I couldn't get the picture in my head. So I looked up some fan art, and it is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I do have Muse of Nightmares, and I did intend to read it in September, but I just didn't get to it. So, but I cannot wait to get to Muse of Nightmares. It's going to be so interesting. And yeah, I absolutely love this book, and I gave this one 5 stars as well. So as you can see, I was having a really good reading month. The next role I landed on to read a middle grade, and I chose Wundersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the second book in the Nevermore series. I did really enjoy this. So Nevermore is about a young girl who's called Morrigan Crow, who is deemed as a cursed child all her life, and she's deemed to die on her 11th birthday or something like that. But she is whisked away by a man called Jupiter, I think his name is. I am useless with names, by the way, so don't think that me not remembering characters' names is anything bad about the book. It has more to do with my memory than the book's brilliant writing. She's whisked away by Jupiter to a land called Nevermore, and she takes part in a trial to become a member of the Wundersmith Society. Now, I really enjoyed this book because this book follows along a bit of a mystery, and you think you know what's going to happen, and then it completely flips, and you go, oh, it wasn't that at all. Oh, that was interesting. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think, for me personally, I think I like Wundersmith more than Nevermore. So let's have a look up. Wundersmith, I did give it a 3 stars, but I think, yeah, if I remember rightly, bad memory again, if I remember rightly, the first half of this book was a little like being rushed through, like being rushed through the story. I felt like I was on a speeding train, and although there is beautiful scenery outside of the window, I felt like I was going too fast to actually stop and enjoy what I was seeing. But then the second half of the book was really great and ended really well, and as I say, the twist, the flip with the mystery going on in this book was really good. So yeah, I did enjoy it, but I did end up giving it a 3 stars because that first half I did feel a bit like whiplash, to be honest. So yeah, as much as I enjoyed this book, it does have its pacing issues, is what I want to say. So yeah, yeah, I can't wait for Holopox to come out, which I've been waiting for months because it's been delayed because of you know who. And not Voldemort, the other one. So yeah, I'm quite excited to wait for Holopox to come out, and I think that's going to be the end of the story then. So I'm quite interested to see how it's going to finish up. So 3 stars for Wundersmith. The next square I landed on was a book that had water on the cover. Ah, yes it does. I thought to myself then, this book doesn't have water on the cover, but it does. It has it right there. So I read Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. I love this. I thought it was brilliant. Okay, so I love a sassy female character in my books. I just love it. It's one of my things. And this book had that in spades. She is phenomenal. It was just really clever the way this was written. I really enjoy Tricia Levenseller's writing. This way of, you know what? This girl is a badass and she is not apologetic about it at all. She's a morally great character, and even though she does some things that you're like, oh, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, she does it, and she doesn't feel apologetic about it. And you know what? You go, girl. I loved it. So this is a story about a young girl who, well, I say young girl, she's teenage. I think she's 19 in the book, and she is the daughter of the Pirate King, and she allows herself to be captured by some pirates who are hoping to ransom her to get some money, and yeah, and she's really freaking clever. She's like Harry Houdini, let's put it that way. It was just the banter between her and one of the members of crew on the ship that's captured her, in air quotes, because they haven't captured her at all, is really good. And I was just like, come on, get the romance going, get it going. It didn't go. It didn't get where I wanted it to go, but I'm excited for the second book, which is Daughter of a Siren Queen. So yes, I cannot wait to read the second book. Trisha Levenseller is quickly becoming one of those authors that I will buy her work without even needing to see reviews or what people think about it, because I really thoroughly enjoy her writing. And as you can tell, I gave this 5 stars. Loved it. Brilliant. I cannot wait to get on to the next book. So that's that. The next prompt that or the next square that I landed on was a book set in the future, and for that I read The Stars We Steal by Alexa Dom. This was kindly gifted to me from the lovely Charlotte from Planet Lottie, so thank you very much, Charlotte. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 stars. Because I think I gave it a 4 stars because I was beginning to think, hang on a minute, I've got a lot of 5 stars this week, so I better this month I better chill it down. But I really love this. So this is kind of a story of it's set in space, and the royal family. The main character is a member of one of the royal family, and basically her family is literally on its last legs. They have no money left. They're having to rent out their spaceship while staying on somebody else's spaceship. And the main character, Princess Leo, she is attending a weekly event or a monthly event or something. It's over a span of time, called the, what was it called? The Valg? Is it the Valg, if I remember rightly? Yeah, called the Valg. And it's basically a way for royals to marry each other. So it's kind of like a dating thing, dating event. And our main character has to go on these like blind dates, speed dating, and all sorts of things. Meanwhile, she has to maintain the family's sort of image of still being quite rich, and there is a rebellion going on elsewhere in the sort of space, where the poor are starving and dehydrated, and yet the rich are throwing these lavish parties and wasting food. So yeah, there is a bit of a kind of who, like a thing with the rebellion and who's infiltrating the ship to sabotage these events and things. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I would love to see like more of that rebellion in maybe a second volume of this book, and see this story progress. I don't know if it is part of a duology or a trilogy or whatever, or if it's a standalone, but I would have loved more from the rebellion side. I think the story could go even further in that direction. But the reason why I don't think it's a duology or a trilogy or anything is because it wrapped up so conclusively at the end with like the romance and things like that. So I don't think this story will continue, but I really wish it would, because I would like to see more of that rebellion and how Princess Leo deals with that as well, and you know, what she can do. So yeah, and a past love coming into her life and really scuppering her plans. So yeah, it was really, really interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book, you will be happy to know that actually this was the first book I picked up, because I wanted to make sure that September was the month that I finally got this book read. And this filled the prompt of TBR Vet, and that is Shattered Icon by Bill Napier. Yeah, it finally got read. I read it. It I started this first. I finished it third. Like, it was the third book I finished, but I started it first. Is it like Da Vinci Code and like it claims at the front? Yes, very much so. You have an antique expert, I suppose, being asked to discover the origins of an antique that is being sought after by the bad guys, who are willing to snatch, kill, grab, whatever to get their hands on this item. The difference between this, I think, and the Da Vinci Code is that this also has like a 2 time perspectives. So you have the story of Harry Blake, who is this antique dealer who comes in possession of this antique journal, and everybody's trying to snatch it off him. Nobody wants him to have this, but the owner is trying to get him to valuate it and things like that. And then you also get the timeline of the journal itself. So the boy who wrote the journal, who the boy was of Scottish descent, I believe, and he made his way to London and onto a ship, and across the waters to America, I think it was, and during the Elizabethan times, and it's kind of like the expedition to go and settle in America, but there's an underlying mission of some of the crew. So you got the timeline of the boy travelling across the sea in this ship during Elizabethan time, and he's writing this journal. And then you have Harry Blake, who's trying to discover the origins of the journal and what it means. And yeah, it was kind of like yeah, very much in the way of the Da Vinci Code. It has some religious like connections and things like that, and people don't want, the religious community don't want the contents of this journal to be found and discovered, because it could throw into question something important in the religion. And you know, it was good. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it, actually. I ended up giving it a 3 stars, just simply because some of it was a little like trudging through waters. And I just felt like some of it was just a bit too slow. The beginning bit was brilliant. The beginning bit was fantastic, because it kind of started with a cut scene that then, as you're going through the story, about halfway through, you come to that scene that we read about at the beginning, and you go, "Ooh, I know this bit. I read this at the beginning of the book." And so it kind of makes more sense of what you read at the beginning. So, but having those cutscenes at the beginning of the book really got you gripped and pulled you into the story, and that's what I really liked about it. So yeah, it was a 3 stars. Wasn't amazing, wasn't brilliant, but yeah, 3 stars. So that was that. So that was all my books that I read for the Becca's Bookoplothon. So let's go on to the other books that I read. So The first book I am going to talk about actually won my book of the month, and as you can see, I tabbed it. I tabbed it a lot because this book is phenomenal. I loved it. It is A History of the World in 21 Women by Jenny Murray. I think this, I was reading this for my book group. Me and a couple of ladies who used to go to the Waterstones book group before lockdown shut it down, now do like a monthly meetup on a Google chat thing, and we pick a book every month and we're reading it. And this was the pick for August, but I didn't quite get it finished in August, so I finished it in September. I didn't get it finished in August because I wanted to take my time with it. I wanted to take my time reading it, and just divulging in it, because this talks about 21 women, sorry, throughout history and modern times, who this author believes have been important in our history. Women such as, let me have a look, you've got Joan of Arc, you've got Artemisia Gentileschi, who, by the way, was a phenomenal painter. I loved her work. The thing was as I was reading this, and like if an artist's paintings were mentioned, I would stop and I would Google the paintings and I would look at the paintings. Or there's a German composer, Clara Schumann, is in here. I stopped and I Googled a piece of her music and I listened to her music. So that's why it took me so long to read this. You've got the Dowager Empress Cixi, I think it's pronounced, Cixi, who was the empress who banished foot binding in China on young women. So, you know, she's a very important woman. You've got Marie Curie, Coco Chanel, Golda Meir, Frida Kahlo, whose paintings I wasn't so impressed with, but she was an impressive woman. Sirimavo Bandaranaike, first female prime minister in, where was she? In Sri Lanka, in Ceylon. So yeah, it's just some amazing women, and I just thoroughly enjoyed taking my time and delving through this book. This book really opened my eyes to how some cultures sadly do not allow women to flourish and to become who they are, and how these women were so vitally important to our history because they wouldn't sit down and shut up like they were told to. They stood up and they fought for what they believed in, and some of these women even died for that as well. There was one woman who was murdered. She was assassinated. Let me see. Anna Politz. I can't say these names. Politkovskaya. She was a Russian journalist, and she was trying to sort of tell people the real truth about a certain politician, and she got assassinated for it. So yeah, these women were amazing, and just these women make me proud to be a woman. They make me proud of the fact that I live in a country where my voice can be heard. And I know that sadly a lot of women, even in 2020, are still hushed and silenced. And that is wrong. That is so wrong. We need to move past that. Women should be heard as much as men. We have as much important things to say. And yeah, the more we fight for that, the better this world will be. I loved this book. Do I even need to check what rating I gave it? I gave it 5 stars. It was my book of the month. Loved it. Very important book to read. If you're a feminist, if you believe in giving the voice to the people, read this book. She does this one of Women of the World, and then she also does the 21 Women of Britain. I've now read them both. I love them both. Yes, very close to my heart. You're not going to get a detailed story about each person. You're just going to get like a couple of pages overview of these people's lives and what they did and why they're important. So if you want a more detailed view about these women, you're going to have to pick up a specific book about that particular woman that you're interested in. This is just like a brief overview of these 21 women whose lives were vitally important in history. So yes, loved it. The next book I read was actually a graphic novel. And this is V.E. Schwab's Shades of Magic, the second novel, graphic novel in the Steel Prince saga, Knight of Knives. I was going to take part in the Buzzwordathon, hosted by Books with Lala, and I had a couple of books picked out, and this was the only one I got read. I did start Nevernight, and I am still currently reading Nevernight, and we are now into our second week of October, so Nevernight is taking me a little bit longer to read. So yeah, this was the only book I got read for the Buzzwordathon, but oops. I really enjoy these little comics. They are based on the Shades of Magic novels that she's written, but this is kind of like a prequel. And yeah, the stories were really interesting in here. I can't really go into too much detail, but basically there are 4 Londons in these stories, and there's magical powers, and we have the prince here, who is the Steel Prince, he's basically trying to prove his worth to a new garrison of soldiers that he's trying to lead, and they are not listening to him, and he has to kind of prove his worth. So yeah, this one I gave 4 stars. I did enjoy the artwork and stuff, so yeah, the artwork is stunning. So yeah, I believe there is a third one out of these, and I think there is only going to be 3, and I need to purchase that one, and then that will be that. But yeah, gave that 4 stars. The next one I read was my buddy read, and it was so good to be back in a world that I love, that I know. It was so good to reread this book. It is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. If you are not a fantasy lover, because, I don't know, you tried to pick up Lord of the Rings and it didn't work out, try picking up The Cruel Prince. This is not epic fantasy by any means. This isn't like, you know, the best of fantasy. It's light fantasy, it's fun fantasy. There is Fae in here. There is Jude, who is a human girl living in the Fae world of Elfheim, and she's being bullied by the prince, the cruel prince, and his buddies, and she decides, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them. So yeah, there's lots of political intrigue in here. I absolutely love this series. I am buddy reading this with Charlotte from Planet Lottie, and she was reading it for the first time. I am rereading the series, and I loved it. And I also, as well, on the reread, I discovered a few little things that I'd kind of missed the first time I read, and when I read them this time, I was like, ooh, I know what that is. I know what happened in here. And yeah, so it was really, really nice for me to see that this time. Do I need to tell you, it was another 5 stars? Loved it. Loved it so much. And the final physical... Shut up. And the final physical book I read was my book club pick for September itself, and that was The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is a massive book, but luckily it's a floppy one. And it's being destroyed. Look at that. I hate it when books do that. Anybody else have that problem? Oh, that's so annoying. That's going to annoy the crap out of me. So yeah, The Woman in White. This was weird. I I enjoyed this. So this is Wilkie Collins' first excursion into the genre of mystery and the supernatural. And when you're reading this, you think you're reading a ghost story. Like, it reads like a ghost story. This would have been lovely in October. It's got that spooky kind of atmosphere, this woman in white. Who is she? What is she? You know, I honestly thought she was a ghost. Somebody else thought that she was a vampire. Um, I really enjoyed this. You get the story read to you like it's these. It's written from different points of view, and it's the person basically writing down the events of what's happened. So, like, part of it is one person's journal, and then other parts are like letters and things like that. So it reads in that way, and it's just telling you this really like spooky, who is she kind of story. And I really did enjoy it. I did find that at some points it did kind of wander off, but then when you figure these people are writing in their journals and things like that, it's going to wander a little bit. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I really did like it. I would love to reread it again in the future. Hopefully if it doesn't get too destroyed. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. And so glad that it was chosen for our book club choice. So yeah, that was that. So the first book that I actually finished in the month of September was a short audiobook, Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. Would you believe it? I have never read it before. I might have read it when the kids were young, but I can't remember reading it. And none of it really rang a bell with me, so, you know, my memory is not the greatest, but surely it would have rang some bell if I'd have read some of it. But what a sweet little story. No wonder it is a children's classic. No wonder it is loved by thousands, millions of people, you know, and it is a massive part of a lot of people's childhood. I kind of wish I had read it to my kids when they were younger so they could have fallen in love with it as well. But yeah, it was such a sweet little story. I did give it a 3 stars, just because I felt like for me there was nothing like out of this world about it. It was sweet and it was adorable, but it wasn't like, wow, this is amazing, or wow, this makes me emotional or anything. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I don't have a physical copy of it because I read it as an ebook was the graphic novel Lock and Key Volume 2 Head Game, and this is written by Joe Hill, and Gabriel Rodriguez is the illustrator. So when I read the first volume, I said that it was a very confusing story and I would need to continue the graphic novel series in order to try and understand the story a bit more. That happened. I am understanding the story a bit more now that I've read volume 2. I will continue and read volume 3 on ebook form. This is not a graphic novel that I'm going to rush out and buy because it's nothing amazing or nothing great. I gave it a 3 stars. The artwork is fine, the story is going well. The head game idea was a little bit weird. This story is basically about this family who move back to this family home after a tragic event in their family. They move back to this family home that they have, and around this house they keep discovering these weird keys, or the kids keep discovering, the adults, the parent, the mother is completely oblivious. But the children keep discovering these strange keys that keep doing strange things. And this key in this edition would open a person's head, so you can reach in and remove memories or place memories in. It was weird, it was strange, it was a little bit freaky too, but the story did continue, and I'm understanding it a little bit more. So yeah, it was okay. 3 stars. And then the last thing that I read was an audiobook, and this was a thriller called I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. And I gave this a 4 stars. This was a really, really interesting audiobook. So the story is a woman on a train sees 2 young girls being addressed by 2 other young men who the woman believes that the young men have not very good intentions, and she thinks about stepping in and sort of sticking up for these 2 young girls. But then she sees that the 2 girls are quite happy to talk to these 2 young men, so the woman sits back and lets it happen, kind of thing. Only to find out the day later on the news that one of those girls has gone missing. And she is then fraught with, like, what should I have done? I should have stepped in. Why didn't I step in? You know, and she comes forward as a witness, and then she is literally hounded by the press. Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you step in? This is all your fault. If you'd have stepped in, she wouldn't have gone missing, and all of this. And so she lives with this for years. And so where the story begins, we're kind of like a few years later, and she's been receiving weird, like, letters saying, you know, you should have stepped in, you should have done this, but she kind of pushes them aside because she's been getting hate mail for a long time. And then I forget why the story's starting up again, but yeah, there's talk of trying to find the young girl. Is she still alive, and things like that. The twist in the story was really, really good. The villain in it was not who I thought it would be. There's lots of secrets going on amongst the family of the missing girl, and the family of her friend, and things like that she was with. So there's lots of intricate, like, details to this story that all pull together for the big finale, and I thought it was done brilliantly. I really, really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 star. Yeah, if you're into thrillers, I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. Highly recommend. Yes, definitely. So that is it. That is all of the books that I read throughout the month of September. All 13 books. As I say, I am in a bit of a slump, or just not having reading time. So yeah, that is it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!